Hello my friends, I know it's kind of the late update for today, but anyways, I couldn't upload video before, so bear with me because we have interesting news. For example, Ukraine has attacked the Finnish territory. Yeah, guys, I'm saying the stuff as it is. Yeah, this territory is temporarily occupied by Russia. It happened in Primorsk, but after all, it's the Finnish territory. Russians took this part from Finland and all of this part long time ago, and one day they'll have to return it back, obviously. So what did Ukraine hit there is the Primorsky oil port. It's over here, you may see it on satellite image. As for the evidence, well, we have it over here, some distant images of kaboom. Nevertheless, it happened. We have pretty much good result of the strike. Many of the facilities were hit. Reportedly, Russia has the disturbances not just in reservoirs, but also in oil pipelines and pumping stations. That's the name. That port is mainly used for the export of the Russian oil, and you know what? European Union continue to purchase some of the Russian fossil fuels, especially Hungary and Slovakia. Well, Hungary not long time ago signed 10 years agreement with Shell for the oil supplies, so they will purchase less of the Russian. Well, even physically it's kind of sketchy from Hungary to purchase that oil from Russia because Ukraine applies its own sanctions, right? But the European Union reported that it will halt purchasing of the Russian oil in 2027. So they'll expedite their independence on Russia, and after that they'll not purchase even a single barrel. Well, I hope it will be done sooner than 2027, because Russia definitely threatens Europe now. And about the long-range strikes, Ukraine opens a new chapter in this war using Peklo and Palanitsa cruise missiles. Well, those are relatively small, but they fly really fast. For example, Peklo missile may fly up to 700 kilometers an hour, and Palanitsa something between 400 and 900 kilometers an hour. I think depends on modification. Yeah, the range here is kind of limited, but nevertheless they may reach even Moscow. And Ukraine is working on updated version of Flamingo missile, because after tests we understand that precision of this missile is still not so accurate, but I am very optimistic about the use of Flamingo. Ukraine will launch many of the missiles very soon, and we're gonna witness it. The target could be also very interesting. And Russia faces the major fuel crisis. It has been reported already in 20 of the regions of the Russian Federation, but there are major disturbances with the fuel supplies, especially benzene. While still Russia tries to keep Moscow and St. Petersburg out of the statistics where most of the Russians live, but far east, occupied territory of Crimea, Donetsk, Luhansk, they suffer the most, which in a way disturbs the Russian logistics and Russian economy. And according to my information, Russia also struggles in production of the jet fuel. Now the question is whether neighboring countries would support Russia. Well, Belarus supports Russia. Belarus has the major refinery, it's the big one, and of course they cooperate with Russia, but also Kazakhstan may join this cooperation. We'll see the further steps, but after all, Kazakhstan is very dependent on Russia, so it may play this game, unfortunately, especially then Kazakhstan is in the same military union with Russia. Alright guys, in my videos I also have to speak about the bad events happening. For example, there was once again a tube operation of the Russian army. Russians landed their forces in Rodkivka, and this time it is a substantial amount of the infantry forces. For Ukraine it would be really hard to get rid of those troops, and potentially they might even deploy the forces in Kupiansk. Guys, I am telling you the story as it is. We have the report coming from the deep state military map source, so here are the Russians coming out from the hole in the ground. Yeah, exactly like in a Lord of Rings, they appear from the ground, from dirt. So here we go, that's their transfer route from Liman Pershi to Rodkivka, and from Rodkivka they accumulate forces to go to Kupiansk. The thing is that this trip takes them 4 freaking days, so they eat, they sleep, they poo and pee inside the same tube. The problem is that there is one more tube that goes from Rodkivka to Kupiansk, and potentially they may handle it as well. And I would say this time for Russians, this tube operation unfortunately was successful. As I mentioned you before, they sent a substantial amount of the infantry forces to Radkivka, bypassing all of the Ukrainian defense, bypassing Ukrainian surveillance drones. Yeah, sometimes they are spotted and they emerge to the ground surface, but in many of the cases Russian infantry is not spotted, and they already created this bridgehead in Radkivka, which is 100% will be used by Russians to attack Kupiansk. The first kind of the tube operation Russians conducted in Avdiivka, then they repeated the same maneuver in Sucha, Russian territory, and now in Kupiansk. Well, this time because of the significant distance, Russians use electrical carts, but even with those, delivery takes lots of the time. As I said to you, 4 freaking days. It is also confirmed by Russians themselves. Russian military channels also write about it. 100% Ukrainian military command should put attention on that one. Alright, let's go back to the Russian attack on Poland. Russia used many of the drones, and the day before yesterday, Donald Trump stated that it could be probably mistake from the Russian side. Then later on, it was the backlash from the Polish officials, including Prime Minister of Poland and the Polish Minister of the Foreign Affairs, who stated that it wasn't a mistake, it was a deliberate attack. And I see how Polish rhetorics changed actually for good. Before they mentioned that it was a provocation, now they openly say that it was an attack. After all, finally, at least we use the proper language now. And this is the latest interview of Donald Trump to the Fox News, where he was asked again about the Russian attack on Poland. Let's listen to it.
President Putin, because we just saw these drones in Poland.
Yeah, well,
more
the
sanctions.
Thing, I mean, I'm not going to defend anybody, but the Poland's, they were actually knocked down and they fell into an area. But you shouldn't be close to Poland anyway.
Right.
So I solved, as you know, 7 wars. 7. I did so many, including Pakistan and India, but big ones.
You see, yeah, reaction. 7 wars. Sometimes he says 10 wars. There is already this kind of the meme today: I will end the war between Russia and Poland. So definitely 0, if not below 0 reaction from the White House on Russian attack on Poland. It is understandable for Vladimir Putin that United States of America is weak and it will not secure its allies in Europe. Maybe with just some of the military support, few of the Patriots, few of the bombs out there, but United States will never ever deploy its forces to protect NATO members. No, it will not happen under the current White House administration. And because Russian officials, they know about this stuff, they will try to intensify those provocations, or in other words, attacks, not just on Poland, but on other NATO states around, like Romania, Baltics, could be even friendly states like Slovakia and Hungary, we'll see. By the way, Orban already stated that Poland suffers because of the drone attacks, because it is in the war up to the ear, so it's stuck, it dug down to the war. That's why it seems like Russia has a legitimate right to attack Poland, or what? Well, Hungarian regime is just a Russian puppet. Yeah. We also heard the strange rhetorics from multiple of the Russian officials towards Finland. And today, actually, the main phase of the Russian military drills has started in Belarus. Yeah, from 12th till 16th of September, there's gonna be really hot. I mean, Russia and Belarus even may use Oreshnik missiles in those drills. And obviously, Iskander's ballistic missiles, which may deliver nuclear warheads. And honestly, I expect some of the provocations there. Well, today, multiple of the NATO surveillance aircraft were deployed close to Baltics and very close to Finland, also Norway. They were monitoring the situation on the ground and in the air. Also, Baltics and Poland closed a part of their airspace to commercial traffic, which is bordering Ukraine, Belarus, Russia. You might see those dashed territories. I wonder if Belarus is going to deploy its forces very close to Suwalki corridor. I think that our allies are monitoring the situation day and night, because military drills, especially right now that Russia already tried some of the provocation or definitely an attack on NATO country, I think they might start something else. Well, maybe not full scale, but they'll try to fill the limit of NATO prompt reaction. So far, I don't see that reaction. Well, Mark Rutte today stated that they're gonna organize the air defense mission of the NATO countries, especially Baltics and Poland, but I don't honestly believe in the great success of that one. Russian drones and missiles should be stopped in Ukraine and maybe sometimes even in Belarus. It should be a proactive action from NATO, absolutely. But I don't believe that those bureaucrats may do it. It's gonna be one more weak reaction. Russians are not hiding that many of the Chinese volunteers are joining their army. Before, just some of the accident videos which were filmed by Chinese soldiers themselves or by some of the Russians and went to internet confirmed the presence of the Chinese soldiers. And there was the case with imprisonment of those soldiers. But now Russians themselves are filming Chinese soldiers and saying, how are you here in the Russian army? Are you feeling good? Are you willing to fight against Nazis out there in Ukraine? So inaction of West, of democracies, of first of all, the biggest democracy in the economy and military, United States of America, makes Russia to open the cards that China supports Russia, as we see also with infantry soldiers, because no one counts those volunteers. How many of those are being deployed to the Russian army? Could be hundreds, could be thousands. Yeah, also Russia obtains those China-made med kits and beds, carriages for evacuation of the wounded personnel, but they obtain more than that, especially spare parts for drones. Here they just decided to show and unpack what is inside that medical kit. Well, we know that China supplies a lot of the stuff, including China golf carts even. Right, we have it from Politica. Trump finally wants to put the squeeze on Russia. Now comes the hard part. Europe targets new sanctions on Moscow, Washington eyes tariffs and trade deals. Well, I'll believe it then I see it. 2 weeks, tack attack, those things just disabled my hope. Alright, one more kaboom was recorded last night. This is the oil storage of Lukoil company. City of Smolensk, Russian Federation. Ukraine launched lots of the drones and the strikes were successful. By the way, my friends, if we speak about politics and the news, I recorded a video about Charlie Kirk. Actually, 3 of the videos. I record 1 video per day on this channel. On this channel, it's called Captain Dennis. It is my trash channel. I call it like that because I may film about any sort of the stuff, not just political or Epstein stuff, but I also film their vlogs, blogs. I may speak about everything, you know. That's why I call it the trash channel, because it doesn't have this specific topic. But if you like this stuff, you may subscribe. Also, I stream there regularly, and I plan to stream tonight on this channel. Then I finish recording this video. Again, Captain Dennis, the link for it is in the video description just below. I just hope that the war is going to be over as fast as possible and I'm gonna stop filming about war in general and I'm gonna focus on general news and streams. That's my idea. I don't know if it works out. But let's continue with the Ukrainian news here. So Ukrainian Commander Syrsky, General Commander, visited Pokrovsk-Dobropilya front line direction. And that's the response to those Russian or pro-Russian Z-tubers who continue to say that Ukrainian military command is unaware of what is happening on the front line. No, Syrsky, I'm sure he knows everything. I have some of the questions to Syrsky, his competency, but he is aware of the stuff, especially in Pokrovsk and Dobropilya. Here he spoke with Denis Redis, who is the commander of the 1st Azov Corps. Azov Corps is very effective out there in Pokrovsk and Dobropilya. Actually, Azov was the first unit that was deployed to stop the Russian breakthrough, and it was a really successful move from Ukrainian command to do so right away. That's how disaster for Ukraine turned to disaster for the Russian army. Alright, Poland has deployed lots of their forces close to the Belarus border. We're speaking about thousands and thousands of the soldiers, close to 40,000 as officials reported, but the problem is clearly visible. Those tanks, they do not look like the standard modern-day war tanks, no. Well, this is the example of the modern-day tank with lots of the anti-drone meshes. Those meshes are very useful. I remember how at the second year of war Ukraine obtained Abrams tanks, and some of the commander responsible decided not to put protection on those tanks. They were sent right at the front lines without it, and they were annihilated almost right away. Ukraine lost several of the tanks per the first day of the combat. Then command decided to remove those tanks from the front lines for upgrade, and after that upgrade, of course, survivability improved of those vehicles. So whether we like it or not, but without drone protection, several of the drones may stop this kind of the convoy, and the rest will finish the job quite fast. No NATO army is ready for the direct confrontation with the Russian one. Only Ukraine knows how to fight with the Russians, because Ukraine does it already for 3.5 years. Also, I'm sure that drone technologies are underdeveloped, and the most of the fight is happening using drones. Yeah, drones first of all, second artillery, and only after that, occasionally, very rarely use armored vehicles. Yeah, and tanks in general, they are not weapons of defense, but rather than offense. Yes, Polish army is really strong compared to the other neighbors, but is it really ready? I don't think so. The thing that Russia will not go to direct confrontation now with Poland because it's very busy in Ukraine, but there could be again some of the small attacks, drone attacks, provocations with those military drills. Everything could happen. Yeah, I haven't seen those kind of the Bukhanka events, you see? Oh my god, just imagine Russian motorcyclist somehow collides to this one. Jeez. Oh, the Russian central bank is preparing for a sharp increase in the budget deficit. Oh, no way, the economy is suffering. Yeah, guys, it's suffering, and I heard some of my fellow YouTubers, pro-Ukrainian YouTubers, telling that Russian economy will collapse. Of course, but guys, it may take time, years and years, especially right now that Russia cooperates with India, China, different other countries. So Russia is not isolated. No, it is isolated from the Western countries, but not from the entire world. It makes the situation kind of difficult. And believe me, Putin will support the Russian army till the very last moment. He will cut everything, all the pensions, all of the education spendings, just to continue this war. That's why I don't believe that it's gonna end soon because Russian economy is suffering. No, it is a very, very long process, as it was, by the way, for the Soviet Union. Just to remind you, the Afghan war lasted for 10 long years, despite multiple of the changes of the general secretaries of the Soviet Union. Yes, leadership changed, but the war continued. That's also the question whether the war could end with Putin's death, potential death, yeah? I have some doubts about it. So I'm here not as optimistic as many of the pro-Ukrainian influencers. But anyways, eventually Russia will collapse. It doesn't have any kind of the perspective as any sort of the big empire, especially with aggressive actions from its side. No, it will not live for a long time, but for a few more years, yeah, it will live, unfortunately. Separate thanks to my Patreon supporters, guys. You really encourage me to film more of the videos or more of the content. Without you, my job wouldn't be possible. So thank you for hiring me for this important mission. The link for my Patreon is in the video description. The membership supporters of YouTube channel, thank you so much also for your kind support. And for everyone, I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are, and have a great time.